As the 2019 legislative session gets underway in Texas, among the big issues to be discussed are school finance and safety, property taxes, abortion, and religious beliefs. And marijuana is also expected to be a major topic of discussion at the Capitol. Bob Sechler, the Austin American-Statesman, joins us now for more on that subject. Hey, Bob.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Good-looking set there at the Austin American-Statesman. Hey, can you set the table for us on this? What are some of the current laws surrounding marijuana and CBD as far as restrictions go in Texas?
Sure. Well, right now, Texas has a law that allows some medical marijuana. It's very, very restrictive. Only a few hundred patients are eligible. You have to have, I think it's called intractable epilepsy is the only condition that would enable you to access it. There's only 3 places in Texas, dispensaries that have been licensed. They each had to pay something on the order of $1 million each to get the license. And I think one of them, only 2 of them are actually operational at the moment. I don't think the third is yet selling anything. So we only have a few hundred patients in Texas right now that have accessed this reform of medical marijuana. And this session, that's one of the issues involving marijuana this session, that there already is a bill that would greatly expand that, make it many more people eligible for it, many more conditions, and actually would increase the potency of it. So that's one issue. There's a few other issues that people are, marijuana supporters are hopeful this could be the year, and that is lowering the penalty from a felony. I'm sorry, not a felony. Lowering it to a civil penalty from a criminal offense. Right now, I think a small amount of marijuana is like a Class B. They would like to see that as a civil offense, which is essentially just a fine. That's unclear how, what will happen there. The governor has shown some support for lowering the penalty a bit from a Class B to a Class C, not all the way to a civil penalty. But so that's another issue. And then we have hemp, which is an agricultural crop, has a lot of uses. Right now, you can't grow it in Texas, although you can import, shirts and things made out of hemp. So the Farm Bill, federal Farm Bill that was recently passed, allows states to make that decision for themselves. So as to whether that can be grown. And so that could be an issue here in the session as well, that we see hemp be a bill passed that would allow farmers in Texas to grow hemp.
We're chatting with Bob Sechler. He's a business reporter with the Austin American-Statesman, and he gave a great overview there of the various considerations that marijuana may play a part of the conversation at the Capitol there in Austin as the Texas legislative session gets underway. Bob, how far do proponents of marijuana want to go here? You mentioned they want to ease restrictions. Are they going to go full off, or is it, hey, let's just aim for the restrictions given the conservative nature of the legislature there?
Sure. Well, there is no doubt that some people in Texas would like to see full legalization, for any adult purpose. I think that some of the leaders of some of the groups like Texas Normal, I think they're sort of, aiming a little bit lower, sort of reading, the temperature of the legislature in terms of how far it's willing to go, and I think they're sort of looking at, hey, what can we get done, and what they're aiming for. Not to say they wouldn't like legalization, but I think what they think might be realistic is to make this a more functional medical marijuana law that we have here in Texas, in terms of more conditions and greater potency. In addition, I think hemp, that could be a low-hanging fruit this time, because I think the agricultural commissioner has already come out in support of that. And, and then you have the lowering of the restriction of the penalty for a small amount of marijuana. The governor has already said he supports, to some extent, that, not all the way to a civil penalty. He hasn't said that, but he has said he doesn't think people should be in jail for small amounts of marijuana. So if you go from a Class B, which is a jail penalty, to a Class C, which is just a fine, that would obviously, you would have fewer people in jail for a marijuana offense.
Yep.
And then that's also part
on that point, Bob, I was going to ask you, Governor Greg Abbott, about where he stands. He's popular, he's powerful now in his 3rd term. Might he stretch his legs a little bit, or where are you sensing that the governor stands on this issue?
I mean, I think he could. I think if you look at the platform of the Republican Party here in Texas, I mean, they have a plank that supports allowing doctors to determine how medical marijuana should be used rather than, the legislature. So that, and he has not in the past supported. He did sign the Compassionate Use Act in 2015, which is our very restrictive medical marijuana law. And since then, he hasn't said it should be expanded. However, during his recent election campaign, he did. I mean, to the proponents of marijuana, they think he kind of hinted that he might be open to expanding it a little bit. He said something, I don't remember the exact quote, but something that, to the extent that I haven't been convinced yet that I would, we need to expand this. And that yet makes people think, well, maybe he could be convinced. So I think there definitely will be an effort there. There will be people show up at the Capitol, veterans, people, suffering from all kinds of ailments that were last 2 years ago during the session. And they make a compelling case, and we'll see what happens there.
As I mentioned, we're chatting with Austin American-Statesman business reporter Bob Sechler, and we certainly appreciate his time this morning. Bob, as I mentioned, being a business reporter there, you look at the economy and how this crop, marijuana or hemp, could affect the economy there in Texas. But there's not much of an economy there in this industry yet, right?
Right, that's true. Essentially nothing. I mean, no legal economy anyway.
Well, of course. So, Bob, what are you hearing from the farmers, the agricultural side of things, or just the others who want to get into perhaps a small business of this?
Sure. Well, I mean, the farmers, they campaigned or they lobbied for last time to try to make hemp legal, and they say it would be a great crop in Texas, and that Texas would be one of the leading, could be one of the leading producers in the state, in the country of hemp, just because it's, some of the conditions that Texas has, it grows well under. It doesn't need, great amounts of water, and it doesn't need, great soils necessarily. So people think it could grow maybe down near the coast in West Texas. So, I mean, they think that Texas could be a leader in agriculture. And in addition to that, it will be an extra crop as people struggle with cotton and things like that. I mean, this would give them one more thing if they wanted to grow it. And in fact, it's already used in Texas. Hemp is already used in Texas. It's just illegal to grow it. So that's one end. And the other end, you have medical marijuana. Now, there haven't, to my knowledge, been any specific studies in Texas about how big of an economy that might be. However, there have been some national groups that have looked at it, and they say Texas could easily be on the scale of say, California or one of these other states. And I'm not talking about the recreational end, I'm talking about the medical end, multi-hundreds of millions of dollar economy.
All right, fantastic stuff there from Bob Sechler. You can find more coverage from Bob at the Capitol at statesman.com. You can also follow Bob on Twitter at Bob_Sechler. And by the way, statesman.com has a fantastic preview of the 2019 legislative session, so be sure to go there for all your coverage. Mr. Sechler, we thank you for your time today. We'll talk again soon.
Sure, I appreciate it. Thank you.